Hello. Hello. Sorry, guys. I'm Ally. Thank you for joining me. Welcome to our session on data strategy. Sorry. Better. Alrighty. So in today's session, we're going to cover what data strategy is, how you can start to have some conversations about implementing a data strategy on your teams within your organizations. And then your data strategy should constantly be evolving. So we'll also cover what you should keep your eye on to make sure that it evolves with you and your company. How we will do all of those, hit those goals, we'll start with a little bit of an intro about me, and then we'll dive into data strategy, what it is, why it's important, what it's not, what are the key components that make up a strategy, then start to talk about how to have those conversations to establish a foundation for one, then go into how to keep it relevant. That's going to be bucketed into three main ways: modifying it, expanding it, and then pivoting on it. All right, so a little bit about me. Again, my name is Ally. I work at AdAdapted. We are a mobile advertising company, and we specialize in CPGs. I live in Colorado right now, but I'm from Michigan. I went to Michigan State, and I've been out in Colorado for 3 years. I actually just bought my first house there at the beginning of the year, so thank you. Very exciting. I've been at AdAdapted for 5 years. I'm the team lead of data, but I started as an analyst, and when I started at AdAdapted, I was essentially the data department. So it's been really exciting to watch our data strategy change as a company as we've grown and as we've evolved to meet the client's needs and expectations and evolved to meet the company growth that we've seen. Let's get into it. So why is data strategy important? I don't think I need to convince you all since you chose to come here, but it's important because having a data strategy is going to align your company goals with your data efforts. And once you do that, it's going to make your data efforts more effective. Once people start seeing the data drive tangible value, you're going to have more alignment behind it. Getting buy-in for making data priority can be a bit of a challenge sometimes. So once outside teams start seeing that value, you're going to start seeing it being viewed as more of a resource. Having a data strategy is also important because it creates a competitive advantage for your company. This leads to more cost savings, higher efficiency, better decision making. What exactly is a data strategy? We'll talk about the key components that make up a data strategy in a few slides, but at a high level, it's really just how you want to be successful with your data and how you're going to drive value with it. Data might not be your product. At some companies, data is used more operationally. Other companies, data is truly the product. Either way, you can use data to drive value. You want to use data to level you up, to make you do your business better. Having a data strategy is going to be all of those data decisions you make with your data, having that data strategy throughout the data lifecycle to do your business better. Again, data might not be your product, but you can use data to differentiate your product between you and your competitors to be better. When it comes to what data strategy is not, it's not just a plan to build out data capabilities, and it's not just having a data warehouse or just having a BI tool. These things are all part of a data strategy, and it's needed to carry out a data strategy, but just as a one-off, that's not sufficient. It's also not separate from your business strategy. Your data strategy needs to be integrated within your business strategy. Once you know what your business goals are, you can create your data strategy and make those data choices to allow you to achieve those business goals. You might not be deciding what that business strategy is. That might be someone else, but you need an understanding of it so that you can create your data strategy to achieve it. So when it gets into the more nitty-gritty, tangible things that create a data strategy, we've got 5 key components: the management, governance, architecture, analytics, and data maturity. Data management is going to be the processes of handling the data throughout the life cycle, the collection, cleaning, and maintenance of these things. Data is going to be collected from various sources. You likely track a lot of your data. Oftentimes you'll get it from partners that might come in through a bucket drop, API call. Maybe a partner emails you a CSV, but you've got to get it from all of those different places and collect it all to where you want it to come into. You're going to have to clean it. This is validating your data, deduping it. All of this is going to fall under the management and maintaining these processes. So if one of your vendors upgrades their process of sending you your data, you're going to have to upgrade how you pipe it in. Maybe they used to email you a CSV and now they're going to send it to you via bucket. You have to upgrade your pipes to allow for that. Next, we've got governance. This is just making sure that your data is used responsibly. You want to make sure that your data is quality data, that it's whole and complete. If you've got any missing data, you need to know how you're going to handle that. You want to make sure it's secure and you're complying to any regulation standards. No unauthorized user should have access to your data. Some of your data might be accessible to all team members. Some of it maybe you don't want all of your team members having access to, especially PII. Who is going to be in charge of making these decisions and granting access? These are decisions you're going to be making underneath the governance section or silo. Next, we've got architecture. So data architecture is going to be the structure of your data assets and how they all interact with each other. You want this to be flexible, scalable. You need all of the data that you collected under management to be able to interact together, because you're bringing it in from all of these different collection processes. But if they don't interact well together, then why did you even bring them in from all of the different partners, and why are you collecting it, right? So this is going to be the structure of your data warehouses, your databases, your data lakes, and getting them to interact together. You're going to process it here, maybe put it through some transformations or modeling. I like to call it decorating here. So maybe you need to add any additional metadata, logging information like timestamps or an additional ID field. This is all going to be part of the architecture step. You'll also do a lot of preparation for analytics here. So you can put it through a model to add additional fields so that it has the information it needs for the analysts down the road a little bit. The next step is analytics, or the next component is analytics. This is pulling the insights, making suggestions for the final reports and the final client. This is going to be looking historically and also looking forward at future trends and forecasting. When you look historically, you want to say what happened, why did it happen. You want to be able to look forward, suggest action on those trends that you're seeing. So it's important to have the data set up in these first 3 components to be able to do that based on your user needs. Finally, we've got data maturity. This is the evaluation of where you are at as a company and how you can handle data. Your data literacy, your data culture, this is going to be constantly changing based on your data teams and what your capabilities are. Your current level of data maturity is going to really make all of the other components look a lot different. So just keep that in mind. It's a constant cycle. Now that we know what all goes into creating a data strategy, how would you go about having a conversation about one at your companies and getting started with it? You start with that business strategy. You need an understanding of why is your company a company, how do you make money, who's your client, what's your product, and go from there. What needs does your business have and how can you use data to fulfill them? And then start to think about those 5 key components and how you can put those puzzle pieces in place to carry out that data strategy. A couple considerations, potentially challenges that you might come across when creating your data strategy is going to fall into 3 different layers. You've got your organizational layer, your team layer, and your technology layer. These will look different depending on your data maturity state, but the layers will all be the same. The conversations will just look different. For your organization, these are going to be conversations based around, do you have organizational buy-in? Is everyone on the same page that data is a priority, that the data strategy you have in place is the right one that's going to drive the value? Everyone's on the same page on what that value is. These are the organizational conversations. Maybe each team at the company has a different idea of what that value means to them, and you need to get on the same page here. That's the organizational level. The data team level is going to be, do you have the right people to carry out the strategy? Maybe you need data analysts, data scientists, data engineers, and maybe you don't. You're not at that stage. Maybe you just need engineers and an analyst. You're not forecasting. That's all going to fall under the data team. You might have all of the right people, but you just need additional training. That's a team consideration. Technology is going to be the right tools, the right architecture to carry out your strategy. Again, maybe you have the right tech, but it just needs to be upgraded to do what you want it to do. Is your team capable of getting it there? These are going to be kind of the conversations that you would have in a consideration stage of creating a strategy. Now we come to, once we have a strategy, how do we make sure it continues to drive value? You want it to be in a constant feedback loop. Your strategy needs to drive value, and as your company changes, so should your strategy. You want to stay on the lookout for any inefficiency with your strategy. Maybe a tool becomes underutilized or a team member becomes underutilized with their skill set. A client need or expectation could change, and that would spark a conversation to modify your strategy. I like to think about keeping your strategy relevant in 3 different ways: modifications, expansions, and pivots. A modification would be your strategy is working well, but you've noticed room for improvement. These are going to be more minor. An expansion would be your business needs outgrow what you're currently able to do. And a pivot would be a foundational shift. I mentioned earlier I bought my first house, and I've noticed that home maintenance and keeping my house up to date has quite a few similarities to keeping a data strategy up to date. So we're going to take that analogy and run with it. All right, so in a house you've got standard maintenance, right? Easy projects that you just need to do around the house, changing light bulbs, fixing a leaking sink, maybe painting a wall once in a while. These are projects that I'm able to do by myself, low cost, don't need to hire anyone, no outside help. A couple weeks ago I painted my bathroom. It was fine, it worked as a bathroom before, but I thought it lacked character and I wanted it to be green, so I painted it, and I think it's a lot prettier now. In thinking about a data strategy, these types of projects would be considered a modification. They're very, very focused on maybe one component of your data strategy. They're incremental updates. Everything was working before, but you just notice room for improvement. So you improve it for clarity's sake, efficiency's sake, accuracy's sake. An example of this could be maybe really focused on the analytics component from those 5 we talked about before. And maybe the analysts give a client a stacked bar chart as part of the reporting. And they notice a pattern of questions coming back on, well, what do the segments do over time? We want to compare them over time, and it's kind of hard to do that with a stacked bar chart. So the analysts modify that chart, and instead of a stacked bar chart, they give them a line chart instead, making it easier for the clients to compare over time. This would just be a modification. Everything was working before, but as the client's expectations change, you modify to accommodate for it. These are usually pretty easy to implement and are just based on improvement. You're not changing your strategy, just modifying how it's carried out. Some other home renovations are going to be bigger projects. I cannot do all of them by myself, and I'd likely need to hire someone else to help out with them. I don't have kids right now, but when I do, they're going to need to sleep somewhere. So that might be renovating my basement and moving my office down there, letting the kids sleep in the spare room, or putting an addition on. Bigger, more costly projects. They take more time, they affect more parts of the house. Maybe I'll want a bigger kitchen one day, so I'll have to knock down a wall or something. Bigger home projects. In a data strategy, this would be an expansion. Your business needs outgrow your current abilities, your current infrastructure, your current data sources, anything you're currently doing. So you have to expand to modify. When it comes to those key components, this will likely touch more than just one key component because they're all connected. So there's going to be some downstream effects, but you're not foundationally changing anything. You're likely doing something pretty similar. You just have to expand the scope of what you're doing to accommodate for it. An example of this in the data world might be your company brings in a new partner, and with that comes more data, which is great. We love more data. But you have to pipe that in somehow. Your company's already doing reporting. You already have a data pipeline set up, but this new data you have to bring in. You have to collect it, store it, clean it, set it up for reporting, and that always takes longer than it should because no one knows what that end business user needs until they've seen 4 iterations of it. So you have to set up all of those steps. You've done it before for other data, but you need to do it for this new data. This would be an expansion. You're already doing something similar, you just have to expand to accommodate this new need of the business. A consideration here is going to be it's higher investment than a modification because it's going to require a little bit more time. It might touch more teams. The engineering team might need to be involved if you're plumbing something else in, but just an expansion on what you're already doing. Finally, we've got a pivot. I love my house, but it's not my forever home. I might get a different job that takes me to a different city, or I might move back to Michigan to be closer to family. I would sell my house, sell the kids that I don't have, and come to Michigan. That would be a pivot. I'm just kidding, I wouldn't get rid of the kids, but that would be a pivot. In a data strategy, if your business has a major shift or the technology has a major shift, especially an unexpected one, you have to pivot your data strategy to continue supporting the business. In order to continue driving value, if you see a major shift, you want to shift the strategy so that it continues aligning and driving that value. Example here might be if you're early on as a company and you have your product and you have your target market, but you realize you actually perform a lot better with a different target market and the business changes the product, your data strategy is going to have to change to accommodate that. One example, maybe a more extreme example, is Netflix. It's a streaming company, but they used to mail you DVDs. When they made that change from their product, from being physical DVDs to streaming, everything in their company changed. This didn't happen overnight, and so pivots don't have to happen overnight. There were probably many incremental changes that, looking back, now seem like it happened overnight, but when they went from being physical products to an entirely different product, they had to change their data strategy to support this. They're bringing in new data so that they can support those algorithms that say, hey, do you want to watch this next? Or you've been watching this idly for 7 hours. Are you going to watch the next episode of Parks and Rec? Play next or pause. This was a major business shift, so they pivoted their data strategy so that they could continue driving that value. These are going to be much higher effort. You'll likely need buy-in from leadership because the value that's being driven by your data strategy is going to change. It's going to touch all, if not most, of those key components. And yeah, higher effort, but definitely necessary if you have a foundational shift. So all in all, a couple key things are your data strategy is just how you intend to be successful. You want to provide value with data throughout the data lifecycle. Understanding who your client is, whether that's internal or external, you want to set up all of those key components of your data to provide that value to them. You should start with your business strategy, understand what your business goals are, what your product is, and how you can add value to that with data. This should be in a constant feedback loop. If anything changes within your company, change your strategy to accommodate that. You might need to modify to improve what you're already doing, but it can just be improved on. Expand if you need to accommodate something outgrowing what you're already doing, or pivot if something has changed foundationally. So that's data strategy. Thank you guys for joining me today. If you've got any questions, happy to talk about it. Any questions?
How did your data strategy change between when you were an analyst and then now as the team lead?
Okay. So the question was how my strategy has changed from going from an analyst 5 years ago to team lead now. I would say the biggest change has been in the reporting side of it. So there have definitely been changes on the government's data management side, but what I've worked the closest with has been the analytics component. So the reports that we've given clients, we focus more on automating it. As our client book of business has grown, we just haven't been able to. We've needed to automate a lot more than we did 5 years ago. So that meant bringing in a BI tool. 4 years ago, we used Looker. So bringing that in and figuring out, okay, well, what does my team need from it? What do the client-facing teams need? And what does the operations team need in terms of serving ads, sending performance reports, sending insights to the client, getting that out automated versus sending it to them manually. They don't have time for that anymore. What does that look like? What kind of metrics do they need? That would have been, I think, the biggest change looking back. Is there one over here? Yes.
Do you document your data strategy? And if so, how do you do it? What platform of tools do you utilize?
The question was about documenting my data strategy. The data strategy is a very, very fluid thing. So I think having it written in one sentence is both helpful and can also restrict you. So if it works for you to write it down, by all means, write it down. I think writing down your overall goal of we want to deliver robust insights. The exact how you're going to do that, if it's helpful to write down, great, but I don't think is completely necessary in order to do it. So not precisely word by word, if that answers the question. But yes, we do have we want to deliver this value to our client. The how we're going to do that, because it changes and we reevaluate. Oh, well, this client came back with this question, and that's a really good point. Maybe we should revisit how we do this entire wrap deck offering. And so that just stays very fluid for us. Yes.
When you started as the only data analyst for your company, did you have any outside help in developing data strategies or getting a hold of how your organization's going to use it, or did you kind of just do all of that yourself?
Yes. So the question was, when I started, who else helped with data strategy? And yeah. When I started, there was a data engineer at the company who was kind of responsible for supporting any data request that came in, as well as building out all of the data collection. So he helped out a lot with the data strategy and really navigated where it was going to go on or in the early days, especially when it came to us building out a BI tool, because in order to have a BI tool, you have to connect it to data. So we had a data engineer who was setting up all of the ingestion of the data, the storage of the data. When we decided to have our data normalized, it was him normalizing the tables to make sure that they were prepared for our BI tool and prepared for the reporting in the way that we needed it. So he and I worked really closely on that side of the house early on. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you guys for joining. Have a good rest of your day.